So I'm Olivier Sibai. I'm a lecturer in marketing at Birkbeck. I specialize on conflict, violence, and disharmony in the marketplace. The agreement itself is quite an achievement if you consider that it's been more over 50 years of civil war. But signing the agreement itself is not the end of the civil war. It's going to be a very long process ahead. I think the challenges are twofold. There is, on the one hand side, the political problem. I mean, the country has been divided politically for a very, very long time. So there's going to be an issue of reconciliating the different parties who took part in this conflict. But there's also an economic side with the issue of peacemaking, because the economy of the country has radically transformed after 50 years of conflict, moving away from the state of law and generally organizing itself entirely to facilitate the possibility of war making. So there's going to be a big challenge, which is going to be about moving away from a war economy to a peace economy. And that's not the least of the challenges. To simplify things, we could say that the economy has largely restructured itself around three main markets. One is the combat market, which is basically all the market activities which are there to fund war making. So that would be arm manufacturing, it would be management of fuel and resources to be able to use the machines, all these money making, all these activities which help make war itself. But then you also have the shadow economy or the shadow markets, which are those markets which emerging from entrepreneurial activities which are possible only because war is happening. So we're talking, and they are typically relatively illegal. So you're talking about drug trafficking, smuggling. These are huge opportunities for entrepreneurs to make money and earn a living in a state which is at war. And so that's the second main market we could differentiate. And then there is the coping market, which is typically petty trade and labor wages, which are all basically for all the people who maybe had their resources destroyed or their houses destroyed or they were displaced during the war and need to earn a living or eke a living in the difficult conditions. And so the people who are in the coping market are dependent on the shadow market and the combat market to be able to actually function. Yes, there is generally this assumption in a lot of the literature that to make peace and move away from war state to a peace state, we need political solutions. But as I explained before, you also have the economic problem, which is relatively different. And sometimes political solutions are not the best ones or the unique ways to actually move away from a war economy to a peace economy. So that's why we looked at the fair trade coffee market in Colombia to see how there might be market-based solutions to peacemaking or market-based solutions to move from a war economy to a peace economy. If you're doing marketing for peacemaking, you can't be just this usual marketeer applying your tactics in an existing market to maximize your money. You need to really think about designing a market within which you will implement your own tactics. And when you're starting thinking about, as a marketeer at this more macro level of the market, that's a tricky thing to do. How do you build a market? That requires you to collaborate with a lot of actors across the country, working in different environments, so that you can build a whole supply chain. And you also need to be collaborating with the government, so that if something goes wrong, there might be a force in the background which is going to punish those who don't respect the rules. I mean, there are ways to work without the government. So you can use like auditing bodies which are non-governmental, which are going to be auditing that the fair trade process is happening adequately. But generally, there is this issue of working with various governing bodies and the whole supply chain to design a market, which is, I think, the main difficulty for marketeers today, who don't tend to think that much along those lines. So our particular research was really focused on the coffee market. In principle, any fair trade market could have a similar impact. Maybe the exact mechanisms would be different, but because fair trade markets are there to alleviate poverty and produce development in various forms, in that sense, any form of fair trade market focus on food or clothing or any form of goods which is produced along those lines should be having a similar impact. But we could move away from fair trade market also and just focus also directly on markets which are directly related to public goods. So if you think about public utilities, water, sanitation, healthcare, education, all these services are not only provided by the government or government bodies, they are also provided by markets. And so thinking about, it's really important for marketers then who work in those markets to think about, okay, not just implementing their tactics, but designing markets which are there to promote public good. No, never. As I said at the beginning, there are political issues and economic issues, and the political solutions will probably always have the forefront. Market-based solutions are complementary solutions to peacemaking, and I think our point is not to say that market as the solution to everything, but rather markets do play a role and will always play a role in war making or peacemaking, and it's absolutely essential that we develop a better understanding of what is their role and how we can use those markets as a positive force for peacemaking.